have another session about video. And Sharrone and I were just on a panel discussion with Joe McNally and Cliff Mountainer talking about storytelling and how to do that. And she's about to come up and elaborate on that. And we're going to see inside the mind of a filmmaker. So whether you're into video or not, it's a great session to have. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to the Nikon Theater stage, Nikon Ambassador Sharrone Calafiore. Yapping up the storm over there with Alfredo.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Hi. Hey. So I'm Sharrone Calafiore of Fiore Films. A lot of people know Fiore Films, and they don't know Sharrone Calafiore. So that's me, Sharrone Calafiore. I'm from New Jersey. Most of our weddings are in New York and Philly. And my background is in editing. I started off as an editor. I was a freelance editor. I mean, I could tell you the whole background story, but it's so long. But long story short, I found myself in weddings as a freelance editor. And one day, one of my biggest clients kind of nudged me to start my own thing. And so I did, and that was back in 2008. And her son, Jack, was our shooter for many, many years. So it was that, I mean, that part of the story is really cute. And so what I was doing, since I was an editor, I wasn't a shooter, was I was sending out shooters and I would edit. And I started just going out to parts of the day, bit by bit, started just shooting bride prep, then going home, shooting bride prep, through portraits, ceremony, bit by bit, until finally I was just shooting full weddings. So now I'm a shooter and an editor. But editing is my passion. So that's really kind of where I feel like I wanted to talk about the thought process behind this piece today. Just kind of break it down and talk about a lot of what I feel my specialty is in finding nuance in stuff. So I'm just gonna play this so that you guys can get this is like our little sizzle reel, and just so you guys can get an idea of our work. Raise the volume. Alfredo, can you ask them to raise it? So I have to give a shout out to Alex Douglas of Sculpting with Time. If you guys don't know Sculpting with Time, he actually created that for a little wedding filmmaker event called Vision Quest. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that.
What you've been waiting for!
Oh, okay. Let me just go back. Yes, so I actually called him because it was like a last minute thing, and I'm like, I gave him this like whole like, I just started like in a panic, and I was like, do you mind if I use the reel or whatever? And he was like, Sharrone, my God, I thought that you were gonna ask me for something crazy. Yeah, go for it. So thank you, Alex. All right, so I mean, as you could see, like our work is described as moody, edgy, dreamy. I would say, some people have even like described it as noir. I just think it's awesome. Anyway, so I wanted to show you this piece now that we're gonna break down. It's a wedding of Kenny Pickett. I don't know if you guys know Kenny Pickett. He's the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. super insanely nice guy. And I want you guys to take a look at, like, we're gonna break this down, but for me, when we're capturing a wedding film and in my edits, I like to concentrate on not just beautiful images, but beautiful moments. And I think that it's important for us as wedding filmmakers to capture those parts of the day, not just the images, to capture and showcase parts of the day that our couples most likely won't remember. And like, to me, that's the biggest compliment after I deliver a wedding film and the couple's like, oh my God, I don't even remember that happening. To me, I find that a massive, massive compliment. So this particular day was really not our usual day. It was very fast-paced. Well, I mean, all weddings are fast-paced. But this one was very stressful. There was a lot of stuff going on, as you can imagine. The photographer was under a lot of stress. The planner was under a lot of stress. So we kind of went in with the whole mission was shoot this day and shoot it well. Don't worry about being too creative. Just shoot it interesting and shoot it well and be there for everything. And so that's what we did. And for this particular day, we didn't really have the opportunities that we normally like to be a little more creative. I love to shoot with foreground. There was no opportunities barely any opportunities for that. And you see the lighting that we like, kind of hard lighting during the day. The day didn't even have that. So this is a perfect example of a live event, and that you have to adjust to each day. And the thought process that I'm going to be talking about is very specific to this day, because every day lends itself some different surprises and different things. So I'm going to show this to you now, and then we can talk about it.
The moment you've been waiting for! Make some noise for the first time as husband and wife! Give it up for Mr. and Mrs. Kenny and Amy
Amy, this is where it's going to get tough.
Love you. I love you. Proud of you.
It was just moment after moment where I was able to see Ken stand a little bit taller, smile a little bit bigger, laugh a little bit harder. All the things that I think happen when you've found the person you want to spend the rest of your life with.
And you each had these separate stories, living only 10 minutes apart from each other, but then you met.
Your face makes a whole lot more sense.
I love you so much. I want you to just be so happy.
Oh,
Thank you, Kenny, for making my daughter Amy the happiest she's ever been.
thank you.
Then came the moment you knew she was the one.
Love is just a word until somebody comes along and gives it meaning. And that's what I know you two have done for each other.
Look at everybody. Soak in this moment, all right? All of these people are here for you, to support you and encourage you, to come alongside you, to celebrate you on this incredible day, but also to be with you throughout your marriage and throughout your life.
laugh with you, cry with you, to share my hopes and dreams with you, and to love you no matter what, as long as I shall live.
What an incredible moment. Isn't that a great love story, everybody? Mr. and Mrs. Kenny and Amy Pickett.
Yay! Thank you. So I'm sorry. I totally did what we can't stand. When someone's making a speech and they don't stay in the area that they're supposed to stay in, I always say, like, I want to do like an invisible fence for them. So sorry about that. So yeah, that day was insane. It was so amazing. Kenny and Amy are amazing. And I don't, one thing that I didn't kind of verbalize before, and I'm not even sure, because a lot of people don't notice it until they notice it, is that we don't really use a lot of camera movement. We let things happen in front of the camera. And that kind of like, I don't know, that kind of happened and it became part of our brand. So now, like, anytime there is camera movement, I get called out on it, on our work, and I'm just like, shut up. Anyway, so yes, I'm going to talk about the first, let me see, right here. I'm going to talk about sound bites and dialogue that resonate. And so what you're going to see here is basically just that. It's sound bites and dialogue that resonate. Pay attention right here to really, you're not going to hear any particular speech. You're not going to hear anything really literal. It's a moment.
Amy, this is where it's going to get tough.
Love you. I love you. Proud of you.
It was just moment after moment where I was able to see Ken.
So yeah, you see oh, can you guys hear me? Am I on? Am I on? Testing. Oh, I'm back. Okay. So that was Amy's father. You know, a lot of, I do my best to, as an editor, I do my best to, I mean, we're shooting weddings. Weddings are all the same. It's a couple, they're getting ready, they're getting married, they have their ceremony, they have their portraits, and they have, their reception. It's all the same. So what can we do really to make it different, to make it not cliche? These are things that, like, as an editor, I try, because we're capturing the same thing. We're basically all baking a cake with the same ingredients. And so really, like, what makes one cake better than the other, or one, chocolate cake better than the other chocolate cake? It's whatever extra ingredients that baker is putting in there. And then sometimes we don't have all the ingredients, so you have to figure out what to replace those ingredients with to make the chocolate cake. So in this situation, like, I don't really like to open up with, like, I don't like to open up with, like, the cliche, bride reading a letter, groom reading a letter, or whatever it is. I really wanted to, in this situation, kind of have the viewer sort of understand that you're about to see something emotional. So the father opens up, he says, I can't, like, this is gonna be tough, and just breathes. You see the maid of honor, she doesn't even, like, finish her sentence. She just takes a breath and looks at her. And I felt like those are moments that we can all feel just by seeing and hearing a breath. We don't really need to hear exactly the sentence that they're saying. And that's sort of a nuance, these are nuanced moments. They're unspoken. It's the unspoken language, right? Nuance is something that you can see and hear, and you get it, you feel it. And then you have, we were lucky enough to catch Kenny's father hugging him and saying, I'm proud of you, I love you, and Kenny's saying, I love you. So these are things that he probably wouldn't even remember happened during the day, and now he's going to have that forever and ever in his wedding film. So we're gonna, this right here, I titled, It Doesn't Have to Be So Literal, which is exactly what you're gonna see. It doesn't have to be so literal, and I really use that strategy throughout my entire edit. Things don't always have to be so literal. You kind of get it when you see moments and you hear moments and you feel moments.
And you each had these separate stories, living only 10 minutes apart from each other, but then you met.
Your face makes a whole lot more sense.
You see, she was reading her letter. We didn't need to hear her reading the letter. We didn't need to see what the letter even said. We kind of saw that moment of her reading the letter, and her reaction was, oh my God, I love him. And then the same thing with Kenny. She gave him this gift. It was a boudoir book, and his reaction was so good. And so she's going to be able to see that. These are, so for video and photo, it's very different because photo is one frame. And yes, a picture says 1,000 words, but in video, it is 1,000 words. You can literally hear a voice and you can understand what is happening. Also, it doesn't have to be so literal. Here you hear the pastor. He talks about, and you each have your story. So really quickly, and it's something that you kind of have to catch. Again, nuanced moments. Amy had Kenny, their whole timeline of how they met, put in his jacket. So it was the first time they met, the first time they had their date, the first time da-da-da. So they each had their story. And then as we're gonna go along, you can see also, you're gonna hear the pastor kind of tell bits by bit of their story. And so that's another thing that I feel is an interesting thing to do. We don't need to hear the story straight away, as one sentence. We're gonna kind of we're sprinkling it in. And this is the more you know. So I always talk about this before our wedding day, about a week, 2 weeks before the wedding. I always get together with the couple because they'll know all the details of their day. By then, they'll know who's going to be there, what if they're going to be wearing an heirloom, if they're going to be giving any gifts to each other. In this case, I knew that for Amy and Kenny, they made it clear the most important thing for them on their wedding day was their family. They made it clear. And that's really all that mattered. They didn't really care too much about anything overly, any kind of details or anything, just family. I knew that Amy was going to have a first look with her father, and he seemed like an emotional guy that day. So we mic'd him. And what you're going to hear now is the amazing audio that we got off the mic of his first, when he first saw him, when he first saw her. And then there's a little surprise in there that I'll talk about after you watch the piece that we got.
I love you so much. I want you to just be so happy.
Oh,
Thank you, Kenny, for making my daughter Amy the happiest she's ever been.
thank you.
Then came the moment you knew she was the one.
Okay, so the fact that we got Amy's father so clearly, telling her, I want you to be happy, I love you, on that mic. Had I not spoken with them prior, I may not have mic'd him. We don't just mic things for, we do everything with intent. And then bonus for us, her mom came over and gave her grandmother's ring, which was a really nice surprise. So we could get Amy sort of just like belting out like a little cry, thank you, on that mic. And then what I call a golden, like it was gold on a silver platter. Amy's father, and this is part of the editing, Amy's father, when he saw her for the first time and he hugged her, he said, "I just want you to be so happy." And then when he said his speech, he thanked Kenny for making his daughter so happy. So that's a little thought process, like in editing when you're putting something together like that. And then again, it's another, like there's so much packed into one little, like 3-minute piece. The pastor told another piece of the story, and then you met. Okay, this is important. This is called Moments We Can't F Up. And for anyone that shoots weddings, we all know those moments that we can't F up. Ceremony, especially, and any kind of format. Well, I mean, you can't F up anything on a wedding day. It's a live event. There's no second chances. But for the ceremony and for any formalities, we don't mess around. For us, it's not really it's not the best time to be creative. You have to capture that, and you have to capture it well. So for this ceremony, we had 4 cameras. Because again, we don't really do, for us, we're usually 2 or 3 shooters on a day. But for an event like this, I knew that it was going to be a very hectic day, and there was just no time to not capture anything on this day. So there was 4 of us. 2 of us were in the front capturing the processional. 1 of us was off on the side shooting towards the groom angle, and then the other shooter was in the back where you could see everyone kind of turning the corner. He wasn't right in the back, because then we would be in each other's crossfire. So we knew that the side camera was going to get skunked as soon as everyone stood for the bride coming down the aisle. Now there's 2 of us left in front of the aisle. And because it was such a tight space, I had to move. And, myself and my other shooter, that was like a moment, like sometimes we just have to like really quickly adjust to what is going on that day. He had a wider lens, so I'm like, you got it. And I moved back, and I got the angle of the groom, because that was really the only thing I could shoot at the time. And it was really a lucky moment, because the angle that I got of Kenny was of like his neck. And you could see his Adam's apple like gulping when she came down the aisle. So you guys will see that. And that, again, that's another nuanced moment. These are like, when I go through the footage, I go through it with a fine-tooth comb. I listen to all the audio, and I try to find moments like that. And watch when Amy walks down the aisle, her father gives her away, and everyone sits down. She looks around, like, astounded by what's going on, in a good way. These are little moments that I like to find, and the only way to do that is to sit through hours and hours of footage and really look for it. I'm not just looking for those basic things. Some volume studios have to do that. There's no time to do anything, and these kind of edits, and they just have to get the edit done, call it, template it or whatever. But we're talking about like special, like nuanced moments right now. Like when she just kind of like looked around and did that. Amazing. So I mean, well, I guess another camera that we had was the drone. So that was, does that count? Not really. Does it? Okay. I have a story though, real quick, that I totally forgot to tell you. So again, like moments we can't F up. I never, ever, ever have just one camera coming, for a processional coming down the aisle. I just don't take that risk. And the one time that I took that risk was a very small wedding, and I thought it was a really nice opportunity. I saw an amazing shot that it was only 2 of us shooting that day. And I went and left my one shooter in the front solo, and I went from behind, and I got this like amazing, there was glasses there, so I got this shot like through glasses, very beautiful shot, processional. And that shooter like never ever drops the ball, like ever. I drop the ball, he never drops the ball. And the one time that I took a risk, and it wasn't 2 of us in front, he forgot to hit record. Yes. So, yes, it was pretty devastating, because also it was a micro wedding. It was right after COVID, so it was only like, I don't know, 25 people there. So everyone that was there was super important. Grandparents coming down the aisle, which that's always like the best opportunity to get grandparents. The bridal party, that's very important, siblings or whatever. Yeah, he forgot to hit record. Thank God he hit record when the bride came down the aisle. So that never happened again, ever, and never will ever happen again. And luckily we got away with it, but we're lucky that way. Yeah, most people wouldn't get away with that. So 2 cameras, front and center. If you're a solo shooter and you only have 2 cameras, and one camera is like, your static camera or whatever, front and center, that's my suggestion. And you guys will never forget that story. Like, I'll never forget it. I know, that was like a nightmare. Okay, so then these are moments that we can we can play. These are times that we can play, we can have fun, we can F up. This shot right here, this angle is my other shooter. He had a wide lens, and reception is kind of like a time that like we're all kind of shooting. We're shooting dancing, we're shooting the band, we're having a good time. So I had the 58 millimeter 0.95 knocked that day, which is an amazing lens that Nikon let me borrow. Well, they asked me to use it, and I was like scared out of my mind to use it. It's not a cheap lens, and it's also manual, and it's also 0.95. Like, who shoots a 0.95 manual on a wedding day? Me. It's a freaking amazing lens. I had so much fun with it. So here's where I felt like, we did play with it earlier in the day. Obviously, I'm not gonna mess with that for ceremony or speeches or anything like that. We shot some portraits with it. I shot a little bride prep with it. It's a gorgeous lens. It's actually much faster than I thought. It's a manual lens. So one thing that we shoot with the Z8 cameras, and everyone that knows those cameras know that the autofocus is insane on those cameras. But a lot of people don't talk about the peaking, and the peaking is amazing. I love to shoot manual, and I love to shoot with manual lenses. So that's what we use here for the Noct, and I really felt like, okay, this is a time to play. And here's the shot. Like right there, it's like just the still is amazing. This was shot at 0.95, by the way. And I'm gonna show you guys that clip like straight out of camera, which is fun. Did you guys see the rack focus? So yeah, I could show that a million times and still be like shocked at that rack focus. It was really, well, that was because of the peaking, obviously, but when I pulled that in, I was like, yay, me. And then here again is another example of having fun. I was able to have fun with that Noct, and again, using peaking. Yeah. That's a 0.95. It's a sick lens. All right, and then so the next thing that we're going to talk about again, like I call this one man's trash is another man's treasure. And even for me, this right here that you're about to see is something that I would probably have thrown out. But again, I go through all the footage literally with a fine-tooth comb, and sometimes our mistakes are like gold, you know? They're like, sometimes the best like moments happen in like not on purpose. So here in this little clip, it's very, very short. In their trailer, they also got a trailer, like a teaser. In their teaser, it's a lot longer, but this is their feature, so the clip became clear. This is not my shot. This is another one of our shooters. And it's another opportunity to talk about one of the features that we like to use on the Z8 is called high-res zoom. So we're prime shooters. We like to shoot with prime lenses. The only zoom lens that I have is the 70-200. But the Z8 has a feature called high-res zoom. And if you're shooting 4K, what happens is when you turn on that high-res zoom, it upscales to 8K so that when you zoom in, you can zoom in 200 times. So it's double the focal length of whatever lens that you're using and still be at 4K. And what I did with our cameras is I assigned the ring on the lens for that high-res zoom, so it actually acts like a zoom lens. And in this case right here, we use it a lot because we're prime shooters. Like I'm on the 85-1.2 most of the day, and because that high-res zoom, I have a 170-1.2. Like, it's crazy. And so I use it a lot. In this situation, our shooter was, oh my God, I'm out of time. Wow, I was yapping. Okay, yes, so in this situation, our shooter was adjusting to get his focus in and get, just compose. But I thought it would be really cool to actually use it. That's that, okay. Should I do the wrap up? Wrap it up, okay. Okay, and then, so this is tying it all together. In the opening, you guys saw, this is the Pleasantdale Chateau. This is their venue. We were coming into the Pleasantdale Chateau. And you started hearing the pastor say, about their story. Just little bits of their story throughout. And here's how we just tie the whole thing together.
What an incredible moment. Isn't that a great love story, everybody? Mr. and Mrs. Kenny and Amy Pickett.
Yeah, so then we hear in the beginning about their story. You guys remember? And you two met, little bits and pieces. And then in the end, it's like, wasn't that a great love story, everyone? And now we are leaving the venue. And in my editor's brain, I feel like that kind of tied everything together. You had your beginning, and then the middle was kind of like a flashback. And then this is the end that kind of tied, it kind of like closed that beginning. And I mean, I could keep talking, but my time's up. Thank you, guys.